name is Heather McG, and this is the Happily Never After, a podcast that explores how life's endings can lead to a personal breakthrough. Because sometimes the end is just the beginning. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Happily Never After, a podcast where we explore how life's endings can lead to a new beginning. If you enjoy the show, don't forget to rate, review, follow us wherever you're listening or watching today. It's a real easy, free way to support us, and it actually makes a big difference. Now, today is pretty special because my guest is Phillip Klapperich, who is someone that I met many years ago when we were both about 22, 23. We were young kids who started a theater company here in Chicago. I was only there for a blip, but Phil and I spent a few years together making shows, staying up all night, putting sets together, and having a lot of fun. He's a playwright who wrote a number of popular plays, many that we performed at our theater company that we started, and some of them are being performed even today, 20 years later. We started this company along with other theater kids just like us from all over the country in sort of a ragtag sort of fashion, and it included some of Phil's lifelong friends, Nate, Sean, Chris Burnham. These are names you're going to hear Phil bring up today, along with a few others. Today's show will be a little bit different. The reason I asked Phil to come on is he recently shared that he had been diagnosed with ALS. So I asked him if he wanted to come on and we can talk about it. Usually, we're very, get together with a guest and we have a very targeted conversation. Phil is someone who I met when we were both very young. And so we treated it pretty casually today. We were in sweats, had a drink, just hung out because I was really curious. Phil had shared that he had some things that were pretty big revelations for him throughout this process after being diagnosed. In this episode, you're going to hear Phil sharing a little bit about who he is, what ALS is, and then how his diagnosis has helped him connect the dots across his life. This is a deeply compelling conversation, and I'm honored that Phil came on the show to share his epiphanies with us. I can't wait for you to hear it. Now, a little bit about Phil. Phil's worn a few hats across his life, including that as a tour guide at the Chicago Trolley Company, which is when I knew Phil. He's also gotten very drunk with a Russian Air Force colonel. He's been dressed down by Sheryl Crow in a Lilith press conference. Phil has led quite the life. Today, we are not including video, and there will only be one ad break. After that ad break, the conversation will continue uninterrupted. I hope this conversation is as eye-opening for you as it was for me. So now, let's get to the show. Phil, I'm so glad to have you.
I'm glad to be here.
We haven't talked in like 800,000 years, so this will be kind of funny.
It's been a minute.
Yeah, I think a few driver's licenses ago. I was thinking maybe we could start off. Obviously, I knew you many years ago, but everyone here, they haven't necessarily met you before. Can you share a little bit about where you're from, your family? Let's get to know you a little bit.
Yeah, sure. I was born in Minneapolis and I grew up outside of Denver. And I went to college at George Washington in Washington, D.C. And then I moved to Chicago with my best friend from high school, Nate. And we started the House Theater of Chicago. And then we met Heather about a year later. And we did our first play in 2001. And then the theater was around for 20 years. COVID finally killed it, but it grew from just like a little ragtag bunch of people asking their first grade teachers for donations to a multi-million-dollar organization in Chicago. I wrote some of our plays. We did all original work, and I did some adaptations of Peter Pan and The Wizard of Oz and The Nutcracker that did really well. And the Peter Pan show kind of helped launch us and put us on the papers. It was a fun adventure, and I did that. I was in Chicago for 12 years, running the theater and supplementing my income, giving tours and driving people to bachelorette parties in a trolley
The
car.
Woo Crew.
Yeah. And then when I was about 35, I moved back home to Colorado. My dad offered me a job at his company, which is building controls. It's like the computer systems that run the HVAC systems and skyscrapers, which is pretty cool. My dad was one of the pioneers in this industry back in the 70s, and he's been a mainstay here in Denver since 1980. and he was thinking about retiring. He was 65 at the time. I will say he's nearly 80 now. He still goes to work every day. He never want to retire. But I came in to ostensibly, take over his company. And after about 5 years of that, I was like, I don't want to, don't
Mm-hmm.
want to, don't want to take over the company. And I continued to work there and just be his sort of like, just handle the stuff that he didn't want to deal with anymore. And I really came to like find a place of peace with that. So I've been here longer than I was in Chicago, which blows my mind now
Oh, wow.
still. Yeah. My mom was a costume designer. My brother's a
Oh, yeah.
photographer and lives in Brooklyn. And my sister was a performer and dancer, and she's in Michigan now.
Well, can I ask you, Phil is a really beautiful writer. Like in the sense that I knew you, Phil, you would take somewhat classic stories, stories that we thought we knew, and then you would add a whole layer of depth and looking at it in a different way, and you would relate it to, I would say, us as humans in a way that was really meaningful. And this is just a question I have for myself. What was your writing journey like? Like, did you write your whole life growing up into an adult, or is that something you found when you were a little bit older?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, when I was in third grade, I wrote I called it a novel. It was about someone named Super Tuna, and it had illustrations, and I did the whole book. And also I grew up in the theater. My mom was a costume designer, and I like literally grew up in like I would hang out backstage in her shop, and the scenic designer would help me build like toys out of the scrap wood. And so storytelling was always part of that. The first time ever like seriously sat down to like write something was in college. I took a creative writing class. I just really enjoyed that. And I ended up minoring in creative writing. And then in Chicago, I started doing a master's degree there at Columbia College in writing. And it's funny, my master's degree got derailed by my playwriting career. Like I never finished my thesis because I should have just made one of my plays be my thesis. I could have done that and I could have
Yeah.
had the degree, but I never got it. But the truth is that degree, I don't know that really would have added anything to the life that I've had since, and I wouldn't change any of it. But yeah, so then like, I mean, The Terrible Tragedy of Peter Pan was the first play I wrote. But I had a really deep connection to that material. Just like that was a play that I had been in as a kid and had like been in love with as a little kid. And, I just like keyed onto this idea. Like we came up with that title. We wanted to write a Peter Pan, like about like what a tragedy it is to not grow up. Cause we were like,
Oh, yeah, that's right.
we just felt like we were at the beginning of our adult life and how exciting it was and how like much better it was than being a kid. You know what I mean? There was like real stakes and there
Yeah.
was real excitement. And we wanted to try to like take this story about not growing up and make it a sort of a celebration of growing up.
Yep.
And I feel like I've never finished a project that didn't already have a poster and an opening night, like on the books.
Yeah.
All of
The posters were pretty good, I
yeah,
have to say.
the posters were pretty well. The early ones were done by this guy Chris Burnham, who is now one of the most
That's right.
esteemed comic book artists in the industry now.
Yeah.
How fun is
We
that?
lost Chris really fast.
Yeah, Chris is the one who he made it. He made it out more than anyone else, I think.
Yeah. So there is a whole group of us, that worked, and I was only there for a blip, Phil and then Nate, who you mentioned earlier, tracked with it the whole way.
I mean, I think he'd still be with it. But I mean, COVID just absolutely destroyed it because
Yeah.
like we never came up with other ways to make money. I mean, it was like, this was a theater company and there was just 2 years where they couldn't do shows. So it's like, well, what are you going to, there's
How are
just
you
is
going to
no
do that?
support for that.
So you and your siblings are all artists. Your sister dancer, your brother photographer, your writer, since your mom is a costume designer, it sounds like they were really supportive of those interests of all
Mm-hmm.
three of y'all. Is that
Mm-hmm.
true?
Yeah, for sure. And I think the fact of that is the number one reason that my like boomer dad business owner didn't become like a MAGA guy. He just like learned that like, oh, everybody, I don't know. He just like learned a tolerance for everybody in a way that
Mm-hmm.
I honestly feel blessed. Like so many men of my generation like had to give up their fathers because of this
Yeah.
MAGA BS. And so there was always a lot of support. I mean, my dad was our biggest donor in the early years, and like even coming
Yeah.
down to like loaning me a car on 9/11 to drive back to Chicago and giving me all the tools we needed to build the sets for the first show. Like
Oh my God, I forgot about
I was
that.
in Denver on 9/11, and then all the flights got canceled, and I was supposed to go back for our first rehearsal for Death and Harry Houdini. My dad loaned me back the car that he had given me for graduation that I had sold back to him because I never used it. And then I drove back to Chicago, and then we loaded up the back with tools, like tools that we could
Right.
use to build the set. And yeah, but my dad's also like, he like figured out how to make his own way early. You know, I think he always felt like, oh, I was following in my mom's footsteps because I was going into the arts. But so much
Mhm.
about those early years of the house, like I had way more to talk to about him about starting a business and like figuring out the
Yeah.
logistics of like how we do this and just like bootstrapping it together. And like we became, I think, really much closer than because of that. And that's why when he was looking for someone to take over his company, he was like, well, I know Philip can do this. He knows how to use QuickBooks, and he's,
You're like, he's been trained by the best.
yeah, yeah. Uh, yeah. So no, it's always been a really supportive family and an artistic family. Everything always kind of made sense.
Yeah, well, I think you're right too. It's like so many people that go into the kind of work that we went into at that time, their parents were like, thought you were nuts. Like, why are you doing this? You need to become an accountant. Um, but you're right. Like, you're talking about your dad. He couldn't go the MAGA route because of all the artists around him. You understand so much more about the human condition. Like, even you're talking about Peter Pan and about, looking at it from a different angle. There's a lot of connections between that and life,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That kind of probably has a little bit of extra personal meaning, for you throughout your life. I don't know. It is neat. That's kind of why the arts are important. Because you see things deeper.
So it's so important. Uh, I mean, art is just about like trying to connect with somebody on a level that's just outside of the economy and the politics and all. It's like humanity,
Right.
that they call it the
Yeah.
humanities. Um,
Very on the nose.
yeah, a little on the nose there, guys, but yeah, yeah. So it was I never had that push to like, oh, go into a respectable, field or whatever. And I think even though my dad was in a pretty normal kind of job for like most of his life, he never had a boss. And my mom like we had directors, but she made her own way. She was an independent contractor the whole way. And uh there was just never that mentality of like having to work for a boss in my house. And I think that's
Right.
kind of how all of like me and my siblings ended up where we are. Like I kind of look back and be like, man, I do kind of wish I'd have just gone over to the shoe repair place and learned how to make shoes. You know what I mean? Like
Probably would have been a little easier, more straightforward.
it
Yeah.
would have, I think the work would have been harder. But yeah, I don't know. I do wish I'd learned a trade. Uh, but I had a good time. I don't have any regrets.
Yeah.
Everything that I've done has been exceedingly fun and
Yeah.
meaningful or fulfilling and financially like stable. Like those are two different
Yeah.
things, and they're both important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, I agree. Because, yes. Can you explain a little bit? Because I don't know if everybody knows about this. Can you kind of explain, like, what is ALS? Like, what does that mean?
So ALS it's a neurodegenerative disease that is basically a collection of two kinds of diseases: upper motor neuron disease and lower motor neuron disease. Now, the lower motor neurons are in your brain stem, and these are the nerves that go out to the rest of your body, to your muscles, to tell your muscles what to do.
Okay.
And upper motor neurons are like further up in the brain, And I still don't really know exactly, I'm not a fucking neurologist or whatever, but sorry, I don't know if we can swear, but
You can swear. You can
okay.
say whatever you want.
As far as I understand, the upper motor neurons have more to do with like your reflexes and just some like kind of higher order stuff. And what happens when your lower motor neurons, what happens is they start to degenerate. They just start to die. And then when you want to like lift something up, there's just a whole muscle group that's run by that dead neuron that doesn't do anything. And so it's basically like you don't have it. And then eventually you don't have it because it just goes away. It just atrophies. The disease has no known cause, which I have to say I am happy about because I've made a lot of bad choices about my health throughout my life. Drank too much, smoked cigarettes. I got blood sugar issues. I'm really pleased, though, that this none of those things have been proven in any way to be a cause for this. And we just lost this actor, Eric Dane, very fit, very fit. I'm sure he never ate a carb, he died from ALS just a couple weeks ago. Rest in peace, sir. Very tragic. He was in the prime of his life, and it cut him down. And there is no cure. There is no treatment. The other thing is there is no test. There's no test for it.
Okay.
I mean, I'll just tell you a little bit about my history with it. About almost exactly a year ago, I was at work and the battery backup for my computer on the big battery on the floor started beeping like the battery was dead. And so I replaced this thing and I had to unplug everything from my desk, plug it into this new thing, get it going. I'm down on the floor and it was time to get back up. I couldn't. You know how you can just feel in your body when you can do something or you're like, oh, this step's a little too high or what, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And I was just like, I don't feel in my body how I'm getting up off this floor. I had to kind of get up on the chair and kind of push myself up. And I was like, God damn it. I've gotten so weak. I can't believe I can't lift myself up off the floor. And for the 3 years prior to the pandemic, I actually got in the best shape of my life. I was working out 3-4 times a week. I'd lost a ton of weight. I was doing ancillary athletic things like taking jujitsu classes. And I
oh, wow.
asked my friend if he wanted to go play racquetball. And we bought racquetball stuff and found an old rec center in Denver that still had a racquetball court. And we went, and then 55 minutes into this hour-long racquetball game, I'm like, this is so much fun. My buddy was much more athletic than me, but we were very well matched in racquetball. And we just had a great time. And then at 55 minutes, my knee bent sideways and I was on the ground. And this is an old injury that I originally sustained in the lobby of the Viaduct Theater during the Sparrow. I slipped and I heard a pop and I had to go to Cook County Hospital and they did nothing for me. And then my knee was weak for the rest of my life.
Damn the Viaduct. I have to say, there are a lot of events there.
I mean, this was all my fault. So anyway, that completely derailed my going and working out. And then later that year, I was getting up from a movie seat at the Alamo Draft House, and I don't know if you've ever been to one of those, but they've got these tables and you got to kind of twist around them. And I heard another pop. And then a few months later, I had to get ACL surgery. And that was in the height of early COVID. I'm talking August 2020. Yeah. Anyway, this is all beside the point.
Sorry, we're going down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, the point is I had a real good exercise practice and was feeling healthy as I've ever felt. I had been diagnosed with diabetes and I had reversed that and I was doing good, and then COVID and this injury and then just 5 years I never went to the gym, So a year ago I was like, let's get back to the gym and get a trainer and start working on this again. And I did that. And then I was feeling good progress, but I do remember the first day I got down on the floor to do a knee stretch or something. And when I was getting up, I could I almost fell over and I was like, that's weird. This is all foreshadowing. And now I realized only in retrospect what was going on. But
yeah,
a lot of the exercises I was doing good. I was experiencing improvements in deadlifts and pull downs and certain things, but shoulder press just straight up with a weight with my arms, and bicep curls like never got better. And the shoulder press was so weak. I couldn't even use the machine. I had to use, because the minimum weight on the machine was 20 pounds. It was too much. Like I couldn't lift.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
like there's being weak, but I'm like a really big guy. I have a lot of muscle in my body, and I should be able to lift 20 pounds.
Yeah, it's the difference between like weak and like something's wrong.
Yeah, it started to feel like, at one point I asked my trainer, I was like, do you think I have cancer or something? Like, how come I can't do these? And he's like, well, different muscle groups respond in different ways. And I was like, you're not a doctor. So then jump ahead a couple months, we're like now into June or so. And I'd started volunteering with the Big Brothers Big Sisters organization, and I was matched with this like 11-year-old kid named Austin, and we'd been going to the zoo or the museum or arcade or whatever, and I really wanted to bring him over to my apartment so he could meet my cat because he loved animals. Like we spent an afternoon just like at the animal shelter, just like looking at dogs and cats and stuff. I was like, oh, I want him to come meet my cat, so I like did the extra training so that he could be allowed to come to my house. And so we planned this day where he was going to come over, we're going to play Nintendo, meet my cat, and we're going to bake a cake. And now this was mostly because I like to bake a cake, like an elaborate cake, but I don't want to have a whole cake at my house. So like, this is perfect.
Yes.
I bring this kid over.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
fun and then leave.
I'm going to have one piece of this cake. I'm going to send this cake home with this kid. And so
his family can deal with it.
Yeah. And they're going to love it. He's got 2 brothers, a mom, a grandma. Like, yeah. That's how you deal with a cake. You give it to you don't want a cake in your, anyway. So we're doing the cake. I got a stand mixer. I go to get the mixer off the stand, and I go over to the counter to put the batter in the pans, and I couldn't lift the bowl. This weighs what, 2 pounds? Couldn't lift it up. Like just didn't have the strength to lift it up. Now this wasn't like totally out of the blue. Like I'd been experiencing trouble lifting my arms after workouts, like to like wash my hair and dry my hair and stuff. But now it was just like, I couldn't do this at all. And I managed to like figure it out without freaking out in front of this kid that was under my care. You know, I got it like in the crook of my arm and could scoop it out. And the cake turned out fine. And then the pizza showed up. We ordered pizza for lunch, and I couldn't lift a piece of pizza to my mouth with one hand.
Wow.
I had to use 2 hands to get it. And this is when I realized, well, this is not about being weak and out of shape, because famously, people who are out of shape have no trouble getting pizza to their mouth. You know what I mean? Like, if you couldn't like lift pizza to your mouth because you're so out of shape. No, that's something else. And so I went to the doctor on Monday.
Right. This is different.
So I went to the doctor on Monday. I couldn't see my regular doctor, but they got me in to see someone. And I got a neck x-ray, and then it was inconclusive, but there was like some little stuff that could be causing it in the x-ray. But then I talked to my regular doctor, and he's like, well, let's get an MRI. So I get an MRI, and then I was scheduled for an EMG test, which is where they like stick probes in your muscles. It doesn't hurt. They're very small. You don't even feel them. And there's another part of it where they put probes in and then ask you to like make a fist, do these things, and to see how your nerves are dealing. And then there's another part of it where they like put electrodes on you and give you little shocks. That was very disturbing feeling. It was like, the doctor's like, this is going to feel like you hit your funny bone. And I was like, wow, that is exactly what that feels like. And then I go, well, that's probably because that's exactly what's happening when you hit your funny bone, isn't it? She's like, well, yeah, that is. And
you're like, mystery solved.
Yeah,
she's
doing. So the first time I'm meeting her, and she's looking at these results of this test as she does it. And she says, well, this is abnormal. And my response was good, because I'm coming from a standpoint of, I don't want them to tell me they don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
But she's looking at it from a standpoint of like, oh, this is not something you want to see. And so I said, oh, that's good. She goes, it's so weird how people say that. And I was like,
want to know.
And I was like, well, I don't want you to tell me nothing wrong. She's like, well, I don't think you're lying. I didn't think you were lying, but I definitely don't think you're lying about it. And I was like, oh, okay. And then she's like, I'm going to order some more tests for you. I'd like you to get a brain MRI and a spinal tap and like a bunch of blood tests. And I was like, oh, really? And then I was like, well, what about the MRI I had? Because I'd gotten this MRI of my spine that showed stenosis, which is a narrowing of the little holes in your spine where your nerves get out to the rest of your body. And that
Yeah.
stenosis of your spine can cause muscle weakness like this. I was like, well, what about the MRI I already had? And she's like, well, I didn't really see anything on there that would be causing, And I was like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I like go down to the lab at Kaiser. Thankfully it's all in the same building. I just go down to the lab and then they pull up my account and they just see all the blood tests I need. And they print out like a little sticker for every vial that they're going to take. And this thing just kept printing. You know what I mean?
It's long.
It was it
Yeah.
was like a CVS receipt. And this thing prints out and I look at the phlebotomist, who I'm going to say her name was Flo, just because I just think that's a great name for a phlebotomist. And also
Yes.
her sass, she had a sassy attitude. I said, am I going to have any blood after this? And she goes, you're probably going to be a cheap drunk tonight. And that, I have to say, was exactly the energy I want from a sassy lobotomist. And I want her name to be Flo because it's just too perfect.
That's perfect.
But I was like, thank you for that. And so then we sent my blood all over the fucking country. I had to get genetic tests. I mean, I had a genetic test that was looking for a single gene on my X chromosome, which would suggest completely different disorder that looks like ALS, but isn't fatal. One gene, a single gene, and
Wow.
that came back negative. All those things came back negative. Basically, you have to just test for everything science knows could cause this nerve damage. So then I went back in on Monday for a follow-up, and she said, I know that your MRI said stenosis, but you're 48 years old, and there's just not a person your age in the world who doesn't have stenosis at this point. And she says,
Okay.
it's not causing what you're feeling. And I know this because of the EMG test.
Okay.
And she says,
that was the muscle probe.
and when we rule this out, what's left, the options that are left are scary. Like it's nothing good. Because what she saw with the EMG was extensive nerve damage that
Okay.
no one's figured out how to fix yet. It's really good that we have a robust medical research program in this country, not being led by an anti-vaxxer who doesn't believe in germ theory. So I feel really good to be entering into this phase of my life with real support on an unknown disease. Anyway, science doesn't know how to fix these nerves. The only medicine is to slow it down a little bit, maybe. I'm on this medicine that's got a 30% chance of slowing it down 20% or something. It's not great, but when she said that, I had been, of course, doing Dr. Google for all summer, and I had figured out there's 3 major reasons you would experience nerve damage like this. One, traumatic injury, which I had I had not been in a car crash. The other was stenosis. The other is just a whole bucket of disorders that we refer to by their initials.
This testing period, did this go on all summer?
Mm-hmm.
Were you having to worry about this all summer, wondering what was happening?
Yeah. I went in June, and my EMG was in late July, maybe early August. So it was it was a few months and I could feel it getting worse, day to day, you don't feel it, but then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I can't get up from my couch anymore. That's been a more recent, it wasn't that pronounced in the early stages. But what my doctor said was, I can't say that you have, I can't diagnose you with ALS right now. This is before all the tests came back, because I was only exhibiting symptoms of lower motor neuron disease. And as far as I understand the symptoms of upper motor neuron disease, I still haven't had those. And in absence of those, you get all the tests and then say, well, we don't know what it is. We don't know what gene to look for on which chromosome, that this might be something else. But I'm a year into it now, and I'm still able to talk and swallow, and I don't have twitchy reflexes. I've got muscle spasms. I've got cramps. I've got, the weakness is getting worse and worse, but it might be something else. Like, we don't know, but luckily, they let you get the diagnosis, because now I can get on disability and Medicare and stuff, because it's on a list of diseases that they don't make you wait 2 years or whatever,
Yeah.
because that might be more than you have. Like, basically the prognosis is, they say 3 to 5 years from the time of diagnosis. And I'm a
Okay.
full year in to like pronounced symptoms that I've noticed, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is really unusual that I would be able to have this conversation with you like this at this point. So
Yeah.
you never know. But what it's meant for me, just practically, is that, like, I had that meeting with her about the EMG test the same week I went under contract on this house. Now, thankfully, this house is almost entirely on one level.
Mm-hmm.
I was living in a 1-bedroom apartment on the 4th floor of a building with shoddy elevators. This is a much better situation for me. I've got these vaulted ceilings. It's a gorgeous space. I've got a guest room. And then I had friends who like helped me. My brother came to visit and helped me hang my pictures. And I've got this friend Jeb, who's like my dungeon master for my D&D group, who's like, when I was moving,
I love
yeah,
D&D.
you love it. He's like, I love moving. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, I was an army brat. Like, some of my greatest memories are like helping people pack up and move. And I was like, that's insane, but I will take
Yeah.
it. He's also a middle-aged dad who likes puttering and
Okay.
doesn't necessarily have a ton of projects in his house. So I could be like, hey, you
Yeah.
want to come over and putter for the afternoon, and I'll buy you a sandwich and we'll watch a movie?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I had this like kind of army of middle-aged bald dads that like helped me move into my house and get everything settled, because I honestly was like, I don't know how long I get to be here. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
I'm coming up against it already. It's probably not great that I'm living by myself. You know, I've been having more falls more frequently. Basically, it's just like every day is just a little bit weaker, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I can't get up from my toilet.
Yeah.
And luckily, when that happened, I had a guest in the house who was as big as me, who could come in and lift me up. You know, and then I got a taller toilet that I don't have to like get up from. And I got a great couch, but it was really low. And Jeb has come and raised it up twice now. So it's now about 12 inches higher than it normally would be. And it's easy to get up from. And I feel like that
Yeah.
buys me some time. And so the thing about it is, when all this was happening, I decided I was like, oh, I should just go get a handicap license plate.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had done a couple things where I borrowed my dad's and was like, I qualify for this. I can get this. So I just got one.
Yeah.
And then I put it on. I was still going to work, and I was at work, and my dad and I were like locking up at the end of the day and looking at my car with this little handicap license plate. And I said something to the effect of, this shit sucks. And he said, it's got to be hard not to sit and just wonder, why me? And
Mm-hmm.
what I realized in that moment is I had not had that thought, and it hadn't occurred to me to have that thought. And
It's
then
interesting.
my thought was, well, why? Like, this is totally random. Like, that's an absolutely normal thing to think in something like this.
Yeah.
And the reason that I came to instantly was that when I was 22 years old, I had an epiphany. So I've been trying basically my whole life to figure out how to explain this epiphany. And I've had 2 subsequent epiphanies throughout my life. And I'm not going to try to tell you the whole story, because the whole story is literally probably 5 hours long. I have told the whole story. I'm not going to subject you to
Yeah.
that. But I also, over the last few months, have figured out a way to tell it better. But essentially, when I was in college, I was writing a thesis in senior year, and I was studying Joseph Campbell. I was
Yeah.
writing a paper about the mythological archetypes present in the Harry Potter series, which at the time was only 3 books. The 3rd book had just come out, and none of us knew the abhorrent beliefs of the author. And so it seemed like a pretty good
Right.
subject. And it was very popular. It was a fun project to write. And I discovered this book, The Power of Myth, by it's an interview between Bill Moyers and Joseph Campbell. And Joseph Campbell just kind of lays out some of the biggest religious ideas that pervade throughout the world. And a lot of them really resonated with me. And over a course of 3 days, like, I just like went through this process where, like, I mean, it was this time I was like, it was Thanksgiving. All my roommates went away, went home. I stayed to work on my paper. Of course, didn't work on my paper very much. But that was when I talked to Nate out. That's when I talked to Nate, and he told me his plan to move to Chicago. And it's essentially when I decided I was going to go with him. And and it just culminated with me like reading this book like throughout a night. And as like the sun came up on Thanksgiving, like I just experienced this moment of unity with the self, with the universe, sort of transcendent beyond language, beyond it feels hard. It's hard to talk about because it is beyond language. Like it was a transcendent experience. And some of the lessons at the heart of that, one of the biggest ones was the universe is out of our control. Like there is nothing we control about this world except one thing, which is how we respond. And that one thing, and I will make caveats for certain chemical imbalances and serotonin reuptake problems or whatever. Ideally, that one thing we have total control over how we respond
Yeah.
to what the universe has to give us. And that has been a core belief of mine, like a guiding principle throughout my life. And that I credit that idea with the fact that, I find out I had this. I just understand like it's not, there's no malicious force that's giving me this. This is dumb fucking luck. And I've had two more of these epiphanies. One revolved around a sort of email exchange I was having with this girl from college, like that I'd been in love with back then. And we just got really, really intimate in our explorations of like where we were in our lives and the things that had happened. And I had another one of these nights where I just like stayed up all night, like reading all of the letters we'd send each other and just like waking up with the sun and feeling like I am like, this is a new thing, And then I will tell you a bit more of the third one. In 2021, we're like in the height of the pandemic. I told my dad I don't want to like run his company. I'm really at a loss for a direction. I'm just not feeling ambition for anything. People are like, "Oh, do you want to write something?" I'm like, "Not really. It just feels like work." Like to what end? But my brother was turning 40 and he wanted to go to this music festival in England. And I said I would go with him. And when I turned 40, he came out to Denver and surprised me at my birthday party that I threw for myself. And then he took me to a rave, and it was my first rave. And I did ecstasy for the first time.
How was that?
Well, I'll tell you what it was. It felt like my epiphanies. I didn't know how to describe the feeling because I described these moments, but the truth was I had those two moments of epiphany and they affected me bodily for weeks. It felt like I was on some kind of drug.
Interesting.
Just felt more connected to everything. And when I took ecstasy for the first time, I was like, oh, this is it. It's the same. Like it's less, but it's the same. And I loved it. It was great. I mean, it was like, it was a perfect first rave. It was like in an abandoned gas station under the highway. And it was a Day of the Dead theme. So we all had like, we made up our faces with skull makeup. It was great.
Yeah.
And I was 40 years old. This was the first time I'd done this. So for his,
I love it when people do that at an older age.
Yeah. I've been encouraging everybody to do ecstasy now. Like you guys gotta, get some, just put on your favorite music and just make out. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, you will not regret it. There's just like, no, you will not regret it if you do. Anyway. So Jeff wants to go to this music festival. It's called the Lost Village. It's in like the Midlands in England. It's like 5 hours north of London on bus, which I know because I took a bus for 5 hours to get there from London. It's like in a forest. All of the little music venues are like in pockets of the forest. And you have to like walk through the forest to get from one to the other. And they all have themes like the zoo or the junkyard or the air base. And it's totally magical. And it was 2021, like right between widespread vaccine use and before the Delta variant came up. During that little pocket, I don't know if you remember, there was like a 3-month period where we thought, maybe we're done with COVID.
Yeah, and then no.
Yeah, but that was when the trip was. And so we got to do the whole trip. And also this festival is one of the smaller British music festivals, but it was especially small. I think there was less than 5,000 people there. And we were the only
That's really
Americans.
nice.
We were the only Americans.
Yeah.
But we're like just two Americans, and we're just talking to these kids, and they're just like, "Isn't this? What do you think of the festival? Isn't this the great?" And we're like, "This is magic. This is like a magical place. I can't imagine anything better than this." And they're like, "So what brings you out here?" And we're like, "Well, we came for this festival." And they're like, "Get the fuck out of here." They can't believe that we've come all the way from America to go to this festival. But so we planned out this trip. My brother works for this ceramicist who like does these like kind of huge installation pieces. It's like these abstract ceramics wall installations that you would see like in a hotel, or like it's just like they got in with some good fashion interior decorators, and then they get paid exorbitant amounts of money to fly all over the world installing these things. Peter, the artist, Peter Lane is his name. He was putting a book together, and my brother had taken all the pictures for the book. And so they were trying to go get some more pictures at this hotel in Paris and a couple other places in Paris. So they were planning to go out there. So he planned that trip with his boss to coincide with our trip to England. And so then we're going to Paris, and there's this story in Power of Myth. Joseph Campbell talks about this cathedral in Chartres, which is just a massive cathedral in an old medieval village in France. And he talks about going out there multiple times, and there's this labyrinth in the stone of the floor. It's like a classic design. You've definitely seen it places. It's not a maze. It's just a winding path in a circle that goes back goes to the center eventually. And also he just talks about like, he'd go out there. He's like, when I was living in France, I went there as much as I could to study the sculpture and all of this. And he said, like the fifth time I went, the caretaker came up to me and was like, "Would you like to come with me to ring the bell at noon?" And he's like, "Yeah, of course, I want to do this." And so that he went up, and they go up into the tower. And I mean, this cathedral is old. That labyrinth, they think it might be 1,000 years old, like much older than the church itself as it stands now.
I need to look this up and look at it.
Yeah, for sure. And they get up there, and the bell is just like this huge bell, and doesn't have like a hammer that you clang on it. It's a seesaw that two men get on and start moving it back and forth with the momentum. And then they just get it ringing, and then it rings for like 20 minutes. You can't stop it ringing. Like you just get the momentum going. And I just thought that was such a lovely story, and that stuck with me for a long time. The labyrinth has become a really important part of my sort of spiritual journey. And like I got it tattooed on my leg before I moved back to Denver. The thing about it that I love is that there's no wrong way to go. The only way to fail at that quest of the labyrinth is to stop moving forward. And for me, that's been like, that was a big one for me when I was moving back, because it was like, this seems like a big swing, like a big change, but this is where the path is leading me. And I know the only way to fail is to stop moving forward. And so as this trip's coming up, I'm like, wait, where is Chartres? Like, because I was feeling in the months leading up to this trip, I was like, I'm feeling the epiphany coming, like there are a lot of precursors. Like old friends will call up and be like, "Hey, do you want to get dinner?" Or, you're just like, it's hard to explain without doing the full 6-hour story. But I had this feeling that, oh, I'm ready for another epiphany, and I have no idea what it's going to be, because I just can't. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what it could be. So I started thinking about the labyrinth, and I was like, wait, can I go to Chartres? Like, because we were going to go to we went to Barcelona after Paris, and I was like, we're going to take a train through France. Like, maybe we can stop off. And I had no idea where it was. I'd never in 25 years looked up where it is. Well, it's an hour drive from Paris.
Oh, so you went, right?
Yeah. So I went. I actually was like, oh, is it open? It's, because of COVID. And I looked it up. And was like, hey, we've been closed for COVID, but we're open now. I was like, oh, can you do the labyrinth? Because it's in the middle of the church, usually covered in chairs and stuff. And it's like every Friday, summer and fall, you can do the labyrinth. I was like, well, Friday's the day Jeb has to go do pictures with his boss. Like, I got to find something else to do. So I rented a car. I drove out there, and the whole thing was a process. And I really recognized that the entire journey up to there, like, we haven't even talked about the music festival where I think I saw literal fairies. Like, I think like the real fairies from the fairy world go to this party in this forest that I think Midsummer Night's Dream was based on. These are lots of theories I have. And if you ever want to do another podcast just about my trip to the fairy forest, I'm happy to do that. But
A 4-part series.
yeah, it could be a 4 or 5 parts. Yes. But anyway, this is the crux of it. I get out to this place. Like, I'm driving this car. You can see this cathedral from miles away. It's on the top of this hill. It's like you're driving through any suburb, Aurora, Illinois, whatever. But in the middle, there's a big hill and there's a medieval village on top of it and a gigantic cathedral. And you can see it forever. And I just like drive towards it. I go over like a little stone bridge up a little winding path. I can't drive anymore. I leave the car. I get up into the village, which looks like the village from Beauty and the Beast. And I'm like, I can't believe it. Like, maybe it is the village from Beauty. You know what I mean? It might be the photo reference for the village in Beauty and the Beast.
Mm-hmm.
So I go in a little tobacco shop. I go up to the counter. I order a bottle of Perrier, ask how much it is, pay for it, get my change, ask where the bathroom is, all in French, a language I had not tried to speak in 25 years. But I accomplished these tasks, drank my water, went down the street, saw the cathedral. Outside, there's a big plaza. No one's there. And I'm like, oh no, it's closed.
Ugh.
But it wasn't. It's COVID. There just were no tourists in Europe. My brother later went to Venice after Barcelona. I went home. He went to Venice. He got to see the dolphins in the canal because no one was there. It was like the best time to visit Venice in the last 150 years.
It's quiet.
Anyway, yeah. Anyway, so I go up to the door. Door opens. There's like a dozen people inside. There's the labyrinth. All the chairs are spread out. I'm like, I'm doing this. I get to do this. You know, I take some time to look around the cathedral. I sit down, take a breath. I decide it's time to finally do it. I look up. The last person who had been doing the path walks off. It's all there for me, empty. So I start doing the path. And I've done this path many times. In San Francisco, I did it in a museum in Tucson. Like, I've run into this labyrinth many times in my life, but never the like original one. And you just go back and forth, and eventually someone else is on the path. And then if you cross paths, you just like step out of the way and let them go. And it's all fine. And when I get to the center, I'm like, all right, man, I know how to make the epiphany. Like, I've been on the path. I've been doing the work. This just needs to be a ritual. I need to respect the ritual of this. And I step into the center. I'm like, all right, what is it? What's the ritual? And also I'm just like, I just don't know what this meant. Like, I know I'm going to get a message. I know I'm going to like find a message. And I know that it's not going to be like, you need to go into real estate. You know what I mean? Like, I know it's not going to be that. And I just don't know what it will be.
That would be so disappointing.
Oh, it would, wouldn't it? And so I just took a deep breath, looked to the end of the cathedral. And then I turned 90 degrees and took a deep breath and just looked at what I could see and did that all the way back to the start. Took a deep breath, looked to the end of the cathedral, and the bells started chiming for noon. I hadn't planned this. I couldn't have planned this to work out that like that. And in that moment, I thought it was hilarious. I was like, this is insane. Like, you couldn't put this in a script, you know, like, it's too corny. But also, holy shit, this is an incredibly beautiful moment to have. Like, what the fuck? And in that moment, I did get my epiphany, and it was gratitude. I was just overcome with gratitude for being in that moment at that exact time, for having lived a life that allowed me to be there, for having lived a life that had taught me how beautiful this moment could be and why. And that's all there was. It was just gratitude.
Yeah.
And the trouble with the labyrinth as a symbol for your life's enlightenment or whatever is that you have to go back out. And so after a little time, I turned around and then walked the path all the way back out again. Stopped off in the gift shop, got lots of labyrinth swag, walked out to the plaza, sat on a stone under a tree and wept for an hour. And then again, you have to go back to life, So I was like, all right. I went to a little cafe right next door. I had a croque madame and a glass of champagne. And then I walked back down to my car. And then I drove back to Paris. And then I drove through Paris at rush hour. And if you ever need anything to grab you out of the infinite back into the field of time, it's drive through Paris at rush hour. I've driven in some of the biggest cities in the world, Mexico City, Moscow, London. I've been like, this was in fucking sane. Anyway, that moment was in the middle of my journey. Like I spent some time in Paris. We went to Barcelona. We went to Ibiza. Thankfully, it was COVID and they hadn't reopened the nightclubs, which is why my brother wanted to go there. And so we just hung out and ate anchovies and olives and sangria for a couple days in Ibiza, and that was just fantastic. And there's like a little offshoot, a little epilogue to this story is that a year or so later, I was at a little high school reunion with some folks from, we just like our close friends from high school were in town for Christmas. We got together at a bar and we're talking, and I don't remember what even prompted it, but someone asked me, I was replying to some question. I said, I just don't think I want anything more. And it's the first time I'd articulated that, but I'd spent a long time feeling like, what, I don't have any ambition for anything. And I used to be very ambitious. And I feel like just living my life should be enough to me. Like, I don't need more. Like, I don't want less. I have a decent living in a comfortable place.
Yeah.
But I don't need anything more than this. I can take a vacation every couple of years. I've got a job that pays me well. That's easy. And it took me a while for even that to like really set in. But by the time I got to this early medical diagnosis, I had really incorporated into my sense of the universe the idea is that we have no control and I want for nothing. And I realized that in a lot of ways, I've reverse engineered Buddhism.
Mm-hmm.
And since I had that interaction with my dad, he was asking me, why don't you feel like, why me? I've been examining this. And honestly, I started to feel like I'd been collecting puzzle pieces throughout my life and they were all starting to fall into place and they all were starting to make sense. Like just random shit. Like 5 years ago, I read about a sleep study that said, if you can just lay still and not move your body at all and close your eyes, that's 85% as good as falling asleep. And I'd have not really suffered from insomnia, but like anyone, I've had those nights where it's just like you can't get to sleep and you're just like, oh, my day's going to be shot. But just that idea that, oh, if I can just lay still, it's almost as good. I started training myself to do it. It's not easy. Like at first, it's like you got to scratch your face all the time. And so at first, you're just like fighting through the scratches. And then you're like, okay, I can put it off as long as I can. And then I had like a little mind trick that I had learned along the way about tell yourself the story of your scratch. Like, why does it itch? Like what, you like think about it so deeply that it goes away.
Yeah.
And 5 years later, I find myself, I don't have a scratch. I just don't get them.
Yeah.
Which is really good because I'm getting to a point where I can't fucking scratch my face.
Right.
And it's not just that I've like learned to deal with the scratches, like I've trained myself to not have the scratches. So it just was feeling like, oh shit. And the only thing that was standing in my way from feeling like I was totally at peace with this was that, a couple weeks into this diagnosis, I started having like big panic attacks. Or I would say one panic attack that lasted 4 days and culminated in me going to the doctor and saying, you need to give me. Like it was like slowly building until finally I was just like, felt like it was claustrophobia, but the thing I was trapped in was my own body and there was never a way out, if you can imagine.
Oh my God.
And so they gave me
I will tell you,
Oh, go
I
ahead.
used to have panic attacks, and mine lasted 30 seconds. So the idea of one going on for days at a
It's just
time.
like a slow dread that just kept building and building and building. And it was just a
Yeah.
week, and they gave me Zoloft, and it fucking worked amazingly. And also, I had started talking to people. Like, I knew I wanted to, like, tell people about this, and I wanted to talk about it. I didn't wanna just, like, call someone and dump it on them, after not talking for a
Yeah.
while. I was like, "Well, maybe I could send a letter out, and encourage people to reach out to me." And then, like, the stationery nerd in me was like, "Oh, I could do, like, a cool letterpress letter." And then I was like, "Oh, wait, no, people are gonna think I'm getting married when they see this envelope, and it'll be the opposite of that." And so I hadn't figured out how to reach out. And then for whatever reason, I was talking to multiple people over a course of a week, and Sean came up 3 times, and I was like, "Sean can handle this if I call him." And I called him, we talked for 3 hours, and it was incredible. And then I just started reaching out to my other close friends. A bunch of people knew already, the people that throughout the process that I had said, "Something's up with my arms." Like, I had talked to all of them about it,
Yeah.
but I wanted to reach out to that next group, and I started, like, reaching out and talking about these epiphanies, because honestly, like, it all just felt okay. I'm not afraid of dying. And honestly, like, I don't know if you ever saw this clip from Keanu Reeves. I think it was last year on Stephen Colbert. Stephen Colbert says, "What do you think happens when we die?" And he said, "I think that when we
Mm.
die, the people who love us will miss us," which is to me the best response I've ever heard to that question.
Yeah.
Like, in my personal cosmology. And it resonates for me so much now because I know the people who love me are devastated by this. And it's become important for me to let them know how I feel about it, which is that I am sad about this. But in the early stages, I recognized I was describing my state of mind as being split in 3 parts. Like, my
Okay.
upper consciousness was really solid and, like, on a good foundation that I've been working on my whole life. My physical body, every day a little bit less, diminishing. And then the third part was this little demon living in my brainstem that was freaking the fuck out. And I was like, if I'm really going to find a way through this and be able to deal with this, like, when I can't move my body at all, I need to make peace with this fucking thing, you know? Like, I need to deal with this. And I had this
Yeah.
compulsion during the early months of reaching out to people. I'm talking to folks from high school, from college, from Chicago, from here, just throughout my whole life. And I'm just having these incredible conversations with them, talking about this journey I've been on, encouraging them to read The Power of Myth by Joseph Campbell. Like, I have 4 copies of it on my bookshelf right now. I like hand them out like a hymnal or
Some people
whatever.
hand out Bibles, you
Yeah.
hand out The
Yeah.
Power of Myth.
Yeah. I was like, I'm in my shaman
It is a great
era.
book.
This is my text. And for the last few years when I go on trips, I would just, like, try to seek out shops where I could find what I refer to as wizard shit. So I just
Mhm.
got all kinds of books of, like, spells and, like weird artifacts and insect taxidermy. And I got some fucking hand carved like 300-year-old hand carved dominoes uh in alabaster from Egypt, just like stuff that a wizard would have. And I grew my hair long, and I was like, I'm just, like, getting into this wizard shit. And then for a lot of it, I was like, I don't believe in any of this wizard shit, but I just like the trappings of wizard shit. I had a so I was like, I think I'm having another epiphany. Like, all of the epiphany precursors were there.
Mhm.
I was like, oh, we're gonna do this again. And this time, maybe I don't have to come out again. Like, I don't have to
Okay.
come back out to reality. You know what I mean? And I said that to Nate, and he's
Yeah.
like, what is that?
Oh, okay.
He was like, what does that mean? I was like, I don't know, but I think that's the answer. Like, I've had these 3 moments of ecstatic, like, enlightenment. And I think there's
Yeah.
another to come. And I think if there's a way to do it without having to walk back out of the labyrinth, you know, because I don't have to go to work anymore. All I get to have to do is sit around and be a shaman to my friends or whatever. Like,
Mhm.
so then I'm talking to my cousin Ryan about this. And Ryan was my therapist. after I describe Ryan, my therapist says, "Oh, he was your root guru, like root guru." Because Ryan was my older cousin, and I, stayed out in Iowa and like spent a whole summer with him, and
Oh, yeah, that's
I
right.
he's a couple years older, and he was absolute god to me. And Ryan's the one who taught me about like how cool Star Wars was, and he's the one who taught me about how like the truth of Santa Claus. So that's like a real.
He's played a pivotal role
He was a
in your life.
pivotal role, and we haven't been super close in the years since. But when he got married, my gift to him was an Obi-Wan Kenobi figure because I was like, "You were my Obi-Wan Kenobi." Like I recognized that even before the first epiphany, But so I'm talking to
Yeah.
Ryan about all this and about like wanting to get back to the enlightenment or whatever, and he stopped me and goes, "Hey, Philip. I don't mean to interrupt, but do you think you're already there?" And that really took me aback because I was like, well, I see what you're saying. Like, I'm really grounded about this. Like, but I've been in that place 3 times and it felt like taking drugs. And I don't feel that now.
Yeah.
And then I hung up with him after like a long conversation and started scrolling TikTok, which a year ago I would have told you was like my worst habit. And over the last 6 months, like scrolling TikTok has been like reading the I Ching. You know the I Ching?
No, I don't.
This is a Chinese mysticism. You take this bundle of sticks and you drop them on a table, and then you like read the future based.
Oh, okay. Okay. I
So,
recognize that. I didn't know what it was
yeah,
called.
so that's the I Ching. So I'm like, I'll just scroll TikTok, and I have to say over the last 6 months, TikTok has provided me some of the best little nuggets of wisdom that have helped me move my conception forward. And so I start scrolling again. I get this little Buddhist message comes up, and she says, enlightenment is not the goal of a journey. It's not a place to get to. It's simply a way to be. And that hit me hard after like, I was already like considering that, and I sat with that and then got a similar message at least 3 more times over the next week, like different facets of that just coming up on little blurbs on TikTok. And I was like, man, maybe he's right. I'm like, I text back Ryan. I'm just texting him. I was like, I want to thank you again for that question. Maybe do you think you're already there? Because that's what a guru does. A guru doesn't give you the answer. The guru gives you the question that
Right.
blows open everything,
Right.
And
Yeah.
and I was like, I'm texting him this. I'm like, I'm thinking about my epiphanies in terms of a quest. They've all been quests to the middle of the labyrinth, They've all been prizes for a spiritual journey. And when I take away that quality of them, what I'm left with are these 3 ideas: presence, love, and gratitude. And as I'm typing this, I realize, oh shit, I've been trying for 25 years to sum up my epiphanies with like a single word. Like the third one was always easy. Gratitude was clear. But the other 2, absolutely 100%. The first one was about presence, about just being present and understanding your unity with everything and leaving the past behind and ignoring the fears of the future. Presence is key to that. The second one was love, and that second epiphany was about love. I've been trying to frame it in different ways because it didn't end up in like a love match for me, And the third one was about gratitude. And I was like, as I'm typing, I'm like, holy shit. Oh, I think I did it.
Yeah.
And since then, like the stuff I got off TikTok and the place my brain went was just, I was like, oh, I solved this part of the puzzle, and the part that's left is big universe stuff. And I've spent a lot of time like grappling with the things about the existential crises I've had my whole life about the size of the universe. It's really hard to come up against like how vast the universe is and our place in it.
It's unthinkable.
And then I saw something on TikTok that solved it for me. And so I'll share this. Brian Cox is a scientist who's on TikTok. Not the actor from Succession. He's a former punk rocker who's now a physicist. Someone asked him the question, are we as humans closer relatively in size to the size of the known universe or to the size of the smallest known measurement? And the answer is not only are we closer to the size of the known universe, humans around 2 meters tall, to the size of the known universe is closer, relatively, by 400 million degrees
Oh,
to the
wow.
smallest thing. It's not just like, oh yeah, we're 3 times closer. No,
It's a
400
lot.
million times. So just imagine like a standard deviation. Universe, human, the next step is like, I don't know, an atom or something. And then it goes another 400 million times, or 399.99, to something smaller by those degrees. The universe isn't vast. This is what I've grokked about it. The universe is not vast. We simply are the size we are, and our senses have evolved to allow us to survive on this planet. And we invented a meter, and we invented a second, and we use those tools to measure the universe. Yes, it seems vast, but I've completely given up the idea that it's too vast to comprehend. Like, there might be a step beyond known universe. The fact that we're so close to that edge tells me there probably are 100 million steps in the other direction that we just can't perceive because of the size of our eyes. And honestly, like allowing myself to like absorb that, I used to not believe in any of this woo-woo shit. And now I think it's probably all true. Because someone will come to me with a math proof, and I'm like, it's probably, yeah, your proof is probably right. I just don't believe in math anymore because we just like made it up. So at any rate, once I've achieved that, so then the only thing I wanted to do was do a big mushroom trip. And because my understanding is that that can help you unlock sensory abilities that go beyond our eyes and smell and ears and touch, you know? And it's like, well, maybe, I mean, there's a part of me that thinks I might actually be my D&D character, just like living a hallucination, and I will wake up from that, but not so much anymore. Before I did the mushrooms, that was had a larger percentage of possibility. But so I have this friend, Angela, who I've known since like swimming lessons when we were 6 at the community pool in our neighborhood. And she was my prom date senior year. We never dated, but we were good friends for a long time.
Yeah.
And she grew up to be a therapist, like a physical therapist. And then she got into neurology, and she opened a clinic. And I was like, when I started this, I was like, hey, I've been wanting to do mushrooms for a while, and I think it's time. Before I called her, like, I had remembered that she had told me she was going to get into mushrooms because they legalized it in Colorado. And then I was like, oh, is she really doing that? And I looked her up, and I found her on a podcast talking about her work and her life. And I listened to the whole thing. It was 2 hours long. And I was like, shit, she lives in Steamboat Springs. I was like, I was struck by the fact that, like, at this place in my life, I might have found her to do this if I hadn't known her my whole life, but I have. And she came down to my house. It's a 6-hour round trip drive to Steamboat. She came to my house. This is the funny part. We're talking, and she's like, but I have the medicine. And I honestly think it's like the most baller thing anyone's said to me. I have the medicine. So she came down with the medicine. And a couple days ago, she left me some extra pills. They got me pretty high, and it was cool.
Oh my gosh.
19 pills.
Did you see the fairies? Did the fairies come back to say hello during that experience?
No, I did see a jaguar god that I thought was really cliche. I was like, this is like off like a spray painted t-shirt from the mall. But I was definitely in a kaleidoscopic jungle with a jaguar god for a while. Angela asked me before, like, what's your intention on this journey? And I was like, honestly, I don't feel like I'm looking for answers anymore. I want to see what this is. And then I saw it, and nothing really surprised me about it. It was incredible. It was incredibly positive. There were some beautiful moments, but I didn't wake up in the body of my D&D character, which part of me, like a small part of me, was like kind of hoping that's what would happen, you know? So I've been processing that for a couple of weeks, and I'm actually glad we had to delay this recording. We had to delay it because I fell down I have 6 stairs from my garage, and I got to the last one and fell backwards. Like, my legs crumpled. I fell backwards down the stairs, and my tailbone's still not quite healed. And that was traumatic. I'd have the fire department come and like help me get up on my feet. And there's like all of this practicalities of this shit that sucks so bad. But I've been really thinking about this the last couple of weeks. And what I realized the last time I was talking to my therapist or preparing to talk to him, I realized like since the mushroom trip, I've had like a sense of melancholy, and I felt sadder about all of this than I have the whole time, because last fall I like created the sense of purpose. Oh, we have to find our enlightenment.
Okay.
And I figured that was going to take me to the end, because whoever does that.
Right.
And I realized in the last couple of weeks, I did find it. The fear is gone. That little demon is gone. He's not appeased. He's gone from my brainstem. Every day is hard. Is like I have very little energy to do anything, but I'm not bored in my house. I'm not like wishing I could go do things. Like I have an incredible sense of peace. And there's this quote from Alan Watts. He was a lecturer about Eastern religions back in the mid-century. And I'm really surprised because that I never really listened to him before because of my love for Joseph Campbell. And they were absolutely contemporaries doing very similar work.
Yeah.
But Alan Watts has this quote. It's like from the Buddha. I don't know if this is directly from the Buddha or like another monk or whatever, but someone says, what's the difference before enlightenment and after enlightenment? And the Buddha says, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. And when I first heard that, I like understood like the idea of it. And now I get it completely. Like I talked to my brother. I was like, hey, I think I got my enlightenment. He's like, oh, did you see God, or are you God? And I was like, no, it's just chop wood, carry water. Like there's no shining light. It's just, I'm living with a terminal illness that is very difficult on a daily basis to deal with. And I have no fear and no regret and no blame. And all I do is focus on presence, love, and gratitude, which I've shortened into one word, which is grace. I decided that grace was the word that sums up all three of them. And I got a tattoo and a heart on my chest, grace. And so I guess that's it. And that's where I'm at. Like daily life is hard, but that little demon's gone, man.
There's something I read a long time ago, and you really crystallized it for me. I don't know if you've ever read Eckhart Tolle.
I haven't, but I have seen a lot of him on TikTok.
I've read 2 of his books, The Power of Now and A New Earth. And A New Earth is all about the purpose of life. And he says the purpose of life is to be present right now. And something I really took away from you talking, and I'm just like I'm putting some of my puzzle pieces together,
That's all right.
like you, like striving, doing things, and I think at a certain point I realized that's how you miss your whole life because you're never here. You're like looking like, where am I going to go? What am I going to get to? And so you just miss your whole life that way.
Yeah. Yeah. The purpose of life is to be alive. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not to make money, like achieve some sort of status, get to some sort of goal or level. That's
No,
not it.
no. And unfortunately, you have to do certain things. I've been incredibly fortunate. Like my dad gave me a job where within 3 years I was making $100,000 a year, like
Yeah.
that's incredible privilege. I understand that that's not available to everyone. But another thing from TikTok is just like videos of people all over the world living their lives, being happy, because that's it. That's all there is. That's all we have to. That's all we can do. It's just try to
Yeah.
be
And yet
happy.
so many people miss it.
I've had such an incredible experience because, like, throughout my phone calls over last fall, I invited my friends to come stay with me because I have a guest room, and
Yeah.
over the last 2 months, I was booked every weekend almost. I had people from throughout my whole life, like coming, my cousins, my friend I went to Russia with back in the day, like my college roommates. It's been an incredible experience. And like being able to share this story and talk on the phone with folks from throughout my life, like, look, we're all going to die. And I still hold out some hope that this isn't going to wipe me out in the next year, but I've been able to have like these really intimate moments with my friends to talk about this. I feel like it's a gift most people don't get, you know? I feel like I've been able to have my funeral, like to be there. You know what I mean? And we're not talking about death and stuff, but like just to like have this time.
Phil, there's something you wrote on Facebook that kind of, as we're coming to a close here, and this was something I thought was really meaningful. It was very simple, but you talked about how you have so many things to be thankful for, a life full of love and friendship. So I kind of want to ask you, this is something I ask everybody, and I'm really curious what you would say. In life, what do you know for sure?
What do you know for sure? It's presence, love, and gratitude. I believe that happiness is not a state that we can live in personally. I think happiness is a feeling of moving from one state to another. My best example is when I'm petting my cat and I move my hand across his fur, it feels soft. And when I stop moving my hand and just let it sit there, eventually I can't feel the cat at all. And I think that happiness is that moving of fur. And that's not something like you need an outside stimulus to be happy. But what we do, like happiness is not always in our power to achieve based on our life. What is in our power is presence, love, and gratitude. All three of these things come from inside and they don't require anyone else's participation. You can love someone completely without them loving you back. It's a totally different thing to accept love and to have love. And presence, this is something that we can perceive at any moment. We can stop and just experience ourselves in the world with no outside input. And gratitude is the same. I don't know what I know for sure, but I think that's the wisest thing I have to offer.
It is wise. Thank you, Phil. Thank you so much for being here today. And thank you for sharing your story, all the things you are thinking about. And I appreciate you being willing to talk about, a subject that is so personal and that I think for some people would be really difficult to talk about. So thank you for doing that.
I'm happy to do it. I'm glad to share my story in a way that will exist on the internet in a way that people will be able to find.
This is how you find immortality.
Yep.
You've reached that state of your epiphany. And thank you to everyone who's listening today, especially those of you who are on your own journey. And we'll see you next week.